Really great to be with you guys here tonight. So when I was a little girl, I used to love to draw. Okay, so all the other kids would be out in the neighborhood playing outside, riding their bikes, and I was quite content being upstairs in my creative sanctuary in my bedroom with my art supplies. I'd get my Hello Kitty mechanical pencils. Do you guys remember those? Hello Kitty. My Melody eraser, right? And I'd sketch out my image with my pencil beforehand to get it just so. And then I'd get my fine tip black marker and I'd carefully outline the image. And I'd get that My Melody eraser and then I would erase all the pencil marks so you couldn't see them. And then I'd get my Mr. Sketch markers and I'd color it all in. And of course I would color all the strokes in the same direction, right? Exactly, right? And of course I would stay within the lines. So I was considered a good artist by my parents, my friends, my teachers. I could make things look good. That's what I was praised for, okay? The truth was, I was just really good at copying things, okay? I could copy, my favorite book cover and replicate it and make it look just so. I could copy my favorite cartoon characters. I could take a picture from a magazine and try and make it look as realistic as I could. I worked really, really hard at making things perfect. To make it look a certain way, make it look realistic, make it look the right way. And that's really what drove me, right? I had to get it right. And this translated into lots of different aspects of my life too, as you can imagine. So I was a good student. I did what I was supposed to do, did the right thing, got good grades, went to a good school, got a good job, went to grad school, and also, climbed the corporate ladder. And so how many of you guys here can relate to this whole idea of doing the right thing? Yeah, of looking good. Perfectionism, yes? Yeah, I get it, I get it. Maybe you felt like Chantal was talking about that Frankenstein step, right? Maybe there's been something that you've been wanting to do, but you don't know what that first step is, so you don't do it. You're not good with the unknown, or you're afraid of failing. I'm seeing some nods. Yeah. I've been there, right? I've been in that place of even looking at the external accomplishments, right? What are the things that look good from the outside, but actually neglecting what's needed on the inside? So I've been there. I spent a decade in corporate America, and actually Christina Rilo, who's one of our speakers, we used to work together at Gap headquarters not too far from here. And so I did what I was supposed to do to get the next promotion, the next, and the next. And when I got to the level and to the role and the salary that I thought I wanted, I was Director of Executive Development. It sounds way sexier than it actually was. It was my dream job, but when I actually got there, it wasn't the same as that perfect, pretty picture that I had painted in my head. It wasn't all it was cracked up to be. And so, I'm one who doesn't like mess, okay? And actually, at that point, I was a mess. I was a mess because I was unhappy. I was a mess because I wasn't living in alignment with my values, okay? And I was a coach. This is what I talked about. I was doing that on the side. I was a mess because I hated my job, and I hated myself for staying in that job for so long and pushing my dream to the side. Are there folks here who, I don't even know, maybe don't want to admit it, but maybe there are some here who can relate? Yeah. It's okay. So actually on June 23rd, 2006, 7 years ago, nearly to this very day, I walked out of Gap headquarters here in San Francisco and said goodbye to the life that I knew. and leapt into the unknown. And so it's been a wild ride and really great ever since. And along that path to becoming a creative entrepreneur and to living my dreams, there are 3 things that really helped me along the way. So the first one, and Chantal talked a little bit about this, is trust your intuition, okay? Trust your intuition. And the second one is, it's okay to be messy. In fact, that's actually where the magic happens. And the third is, the only way out is through. Gosh darn it, even though you don't want it to be. So I told you a little bit about my artistic endeavors as a kid, and I'll share with you a more recent experience that helps paint the picture of these 3 principles of trust your intuition, it's okay to be messy, and the way out is through. So a few years ago, I stumbled upon an intuitive painting studio that was near my house. And I started taking these weekly classes there. And it was great. It was this place where I could reignite my creativity in a way that I wasn't necessarily used to, because I told you guys I was used to copying things and doing things meticulously. And this class was opposite of that. Okay, I had to throw all that out the window. And it was about reconnecting back to your childhood creativity, or getting the finger paints and just painting wild and smelling the paints and letting the painting actually emerge. Very different, right, than me mapping out everything. And so I just learned to trust my intuition, and all I had to do was ask what color and where. So it took a little bit of getting used to, and I learned to just trust the brush and not think. And so one day, I was at the studio, I pinned up a piece of paper like I normally did to do my painting, and the brush made this giant yellow circle. I'm like, okay, it took up the whole paper. I have no idea what this is gonna be. And then I saw this lady doing the splits, this green lady on top of the circle. And I said, okay, I have no idea what that means. Apparently I need to get another piece of paper in order to paint that lady. And so I did. And then this yellow circle became a face, and then she needed a body, so I needed to get another piece of paper. And then these red swirls started to come in, and they were connected to this red elephant kind of alien creature that took up 3 more pages. And granted, every time I had to add another piece of paper, it was a huge ordeal, okay? Like, I hated it. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know where this painting was going. It was a mess. And I would whine to my painting teacher and all of that. And each time I had to do it, I actually had to ask for help, to get the paper up, because I had to get on my tiptoes and add more paper. And I was taking up more physical space. And I even had to sometimes ask my classmates, can you move your painting to make room for my big, messy painting? Okay. And so, of course, my left brain was just going crazy with this, right? All sorts of judgments about, okay, you're being a big nuisance, taking up all this space with this messy painting that makes no sense, that has this weird, crazy red elephant alien. Like, what the hell are you doing? And my right brain actually was in heaven. I was connected to my creativity and my imagination in a way that I hadn't given myself permission to be before, so fully and so deeply and so crazy, things didn't make sense. And so, what started out as this 1 page of paper, a painting, it turned into 3, and then 6, and that actually, after months of messiness, this painting got bigger and bigger, and it was 18 pages big, like a whole wall of this crazy, crazy mural. That made no sense. And what started out as this yellow circle that then turned into this face of this quiet, demure woman. She had her hands across her heart. It exploded into this red, crazy elephant alien, and then there was this naked, menstruating woman with blue breasts and hot pink nipples dancing around, and she was crazy. And then there was this neon orange phoenix that was rising from the ash. A far cry from those realistic sketches and those tame drawings I was doing as a kid, right? And so I took a step back from this huge 18-page painting that covered the wall. And I knew that there was still something more. The painting wasn't done. Actually, the painting wasn't done with me. And I knew that there was something else that needed to be there. I didn't know what it was. I was with that place of the unknown again and feeling really uncomfortable. And so my teacher, Chris, came over and she said, Jen, how can you actually add in the discomfort of the unknown into this painting? Well, my right brain was like, add gray. My left brain was like, there is absolutely no room to add anything else into this picture. But my right brain guided me over to some gray paint, and I dipped my fingers into this wet, cool paint, and I let it squish around my hands. And then I just started to flick this gray paint all across the painting, just everywhere. A little bit of unknown here, a splash of messiness here, into these cracks and crevices of all this chaos that was this painting. And before I knew it, my hands felt alive and there was this huge smile across my face after making this big mess of an already messy painting. And I realized that I was complete. And the way through the discomfort of the unknown was to actually just dive right in there and move through it. So this big 18-page painting that took up a whole wall became a symbol for me that reminded me of these three principles that help me on my creative process. So the first is trust your intuition. You don't need to have everything figured out before taking the first Frankenstein step, to quote Chantal. Two, it's okay to be messy. In fact, that's where the magic happens, right? If I didn't allow myself to do these wild, crazy creatures and have these bold colors that made no sense, I wouldn't have felt that visceral, emotional way of my own bigness, of being big in the world and being seen. I would have missed out on that. And the way out is through. So by moving through the discomfort, by being with the unknown, I was actually able to get to the other side. So I was working with a client actually earlier this week, and something similar kind of came up for her. She's been working on this creative project that's near and dear to her heart. She's been working on it for a while. And she's really, really connected to the big vision of what she's doing, what she's wanting to give birth to. But of course, now that it's come time to take more action, things all of a sudden became really unclear, right? And she hesitated. Sound familiar? Yes. So she said, you know, this project, there's certain parts, like there's some edges that are defined, but in the middle is this really murky lake. So of course, being the coach, I had to ask, what would it be like to dip your toe into this murky lake? And she said it would be cold and uncomfortable, and I really have to know that there's something bright and shiny waiting for me at the bottom. Otherwise, it's not worth getting wet for. So I'm wondering for you guys here, are you willing to dive into the murky waters of the lake and trust that there's some bright, shiny object waiting for you? Yeah. I bet just like my client was, you are actually ready, whether you know it or not, right? You guys actually showed up here tonight. I know some of you were uncomfortable even coming here, you know, being in new social situations, right? But you took that leap and you showed up. So with that, you know, I just want to remind you to keep on taking those steps forward. Move through the murkiness. You know, I'm in the midst of a lot of mess and upheaval in my life right now. I'm in the middle of a move and all of that. Working on my second book, all sorts of chaos. And yet I know I'm exactly where I need to be. So I'm trusting my intuition. I know it's okay to be with the mess, because that's where the magic happens. And the way out is through. So actor Danny Kaye said, life is a great big canvas. Throw all the paint on it you can. And so I encourage you guys to go ahead, dive in, roll up your sleeves, get your hands in that wet, gooey paint, and just splatter all across. You know, be with the unknown, be with the messiness and the murkiness, because it's all part of the creative process, and it's all part of you creating the beautiful, authentic masterpiece that is your life. Thank you.